After having such a great time on San Cristobal, it was time to head over to the island of Santa Cruz.
Good morning, and it's our last morning here at the Catarmo Hotel, which has been really, really awesome. Having a little bite to eat here before heading to the ferry.
Before you can get on a ferry, you have to go through an inspection station.
We made it right before the line at 6:30. They tell you to get here at 6:30. We get here at like 6:20 or so. It was worth it, otherwise we would have been sitting in that line for a while, getting everything inspected. They don't want any fruits and vegetables going to the other islands. So as it turns out, there was something wrong with the ferries. We're not completely understanding what it was, but it sounded like a ferry broke down or something was happening. So they're gonna put us on a 10 a.m. ferry. It's okay. Spend another 2.5 hours or so here in San Cristobal.
Just enough time for a nice local breakfast. By the time we returned to the docks, rain began to fall. We did our best to keep our luggage dry, but everything got a bit wet. This time the boat was ready and we began our 2.5-hour drive to the island of Santa Cruz. When we arrived at Puerto Ayora, the crew began loading passengers and luggage onto the water taxis that would take us to the docks. It was a short little trip, but I couldn't help but be a little concerned that some of our luggage might fall into the ocean.
Well, we made it to Santa Cruz a little bit later than we thought, but not bad. It is only about, I don't know, 12:45 or so. So, now to find our hotel and get settled in.
Este hotel.
Okay. Aquí alrededor.
Ya. Aquí mucho de visita.
Sí.
Maybe de visita volcanos, Gemelos.
So, this is Hotel North Seymour, and it's actually rather nice compared to the fact that it was really pretty cheap. So, let me show you around. Here we have breakfast at 7 a.m. and a little lounging area, which is nice. Up the stairs, or the ramp here, we've got a little kind of hot tub style pool, which is really nice. And we are in the number 7 with the blue-footed booby on it. So, not too bad. We've got 2 beds. It's rather nice, all in all, and of course, bathroom. So now that we're in Santa Cruz, we've been walking the streets a little bit, and we're heading up to the Charles Darwin Research Station. We figured we'd at least check that out this afternoon, since we only have a couple hours here in the afternoon to fool around with. So that's where we're heading, and so much busier than San Cristobal. So much busier.
The Charles Darwin Research Station was inaugurated in 1964 as a base for scientific research on the islands and helps to advise the government and the national park on management of natural resources. Most people come to tour the Tortoise Breeding Center, which works to repopulate the Galapagos giant tortoise within the islands.
So this first paddock that we've been looking at is all hybrids. They're kind of from various different islands, and they don't use them for breeding specifically. They're actually trying to do some genetic work with them to see if they can look for traces of some of the more extinct species that we don't have anymore. And it's just kind of cool, all these cactuses creating such a neat environment. these cactus trees just everywhere. It really kind of fascinated us.
They are actually a species of prickly pear that have adapted this tall morphology to evade the giant tortoise and land iguanas that eat them. And of course, it's always cool to check out all the young little turtles and wonder just how big they're going to get one day. Something I didn't expect to see was Lonesome George, who had passed away in 2012. Lonesome George was the last known survivor of the tortoises from Pinta Island in the northern region of the Galapagos. The Pinta tortoises were overexploited by early explorers and whalers throughout the 1800s. There were once 15 distinct Galapagos tortoise species, but today only 11 survive, and unfortunately, with Lonesome George passing away, the Pinta tortoises are now extinct. However, Lonesome George is back greeting visitors after an extensive taxidermy session in New York. The Pinta tortoises were thought to be extinct by the early 20th century. In 1959, fishermen released goats onto the island, hoping to have a source of fresh meat in the future for long-distance fishing voyages. By 1970, almost 40,000 goats roamed the island, devastating vegetation and any potential tortoise habitat. In 1971, a Hungarian scientist studying snails on Pinta saw a tortoise, and by the spring of 1972, rangers from the national park found a tortoise that would be known as Lonesome George and brought him back to the Tortoise Center here on Santa Cruz Island. A global search for another Pinta tortoise, specifically a female, occurred, but none were found, including on the island of Pinta. Lonesome George was the last of his kind. Researchers did try and breed Lonesome George with other tortoises, however, the results were not successful. But there have been success stories. The turtle named Diego has had over 800 offspring, helping to save his species on Hispaniola.
So the Tortoise Research Center was very cool. Incredible animals, really, if you look at them in terms of how old they are, not to mention all their adaptations here on these various different islands. So we're now going to head back to town and probably procure some dinner and wrap up our day. So we're on Charles Buford Boulevard Avenue, but it's kind of cool because there's just all of these setups all the way down the way, restaurants and whatnot taking over the street. And we're in a restaurant called TJ's, which was recommended by our tour company, and we're gonna have some food. So I'll show you what it's like here in a minute. Well, we're back to Hotel North Seymour, and that was quite a fish market. I think we're gonna have fun the next few days exploring some of this interesting food. Anyway, it's been a day, so we're gonna pack it in and go exploring tomorrow. Yay!
Make sure to subscribe and check back for more episodes from the Galapagos and my other adventures. If you want information from the Galapagos, including my trip in terms of cost and logistics, make sure to check out the description below. And of course, until next time, keep exploring.